right. Welcome everybody to another episode. In fact, it's the same episode, part 2 this time around, to Advancing Consciousness series. This is the series which assists you in a huge way to really access your true knowing, your true essence, and kind of really play the game of life at another level. A level that is not polarized, is not in the sense of the old games that we've played before, which is more in alignment of who you are becoming each day and each moment as we're moving along. And things are moving along very quickly now. So this is part 2, so it's time to get real, part 2. Now the reason we have part 2 is because there's more that we would like to cover as part of the getting real, because in a sense, when we understand things much more clearly, we are easier, or at least have a stronger guidance in how to navigate our life. So we're going to look at several things today, and including a couple of processes. There'll be small processes, but we'll be also doing that. So for the people that do not know me, my name is Franco De Nicola, and I've been working at this type of work for 35 plus years, which a lot of my time was at that point in time doing smaller gatherings and so forth, but also doing private sessions and so forth. And now the shift has been to create this type of content and other contents like workshops and everything else on a bigger scale than what we did before. So we also like to thank you for your support and your contributions for keeping us online. And we welcome any support and any contributions at this point in time moving forward. And we also had a workshop a couple of weeks ago now. And if you missed on that, in the link below, we also have the link for you to access the video and audio recordings. They're all ready now. And so that you could use that. Plus, we also have links to take you to the website if you want to join the community. I do strongly recommend to join the community. That way you will get emails time to time letting you know all the different things that we will be covering and so forth moving forward, so that you get notification of things that are playing out. Of course, if you're on YouTube, if you subscribe and push the notification button, then you will also get notification from there. On Vimeo, you'll have to just be a follower. And if you're on Facebook, of course, you can join either the Advancing Consciousness series that you may already be watching now, or you may be watching on 2 of my other pages. Okay, so let's get started here. So the first thing we want to look at is the power that we have within being present, being where we are in whatever we're playing. Because if we are just projecting forward, and especially now, because there's a lot of fear, a lot of stories, a lot of potentialities that are being brought up by other people. Of course, we've got the mainstream narrative. Of course, we have the alternative narratives or understandings, but we also have different information that we seem to receive. And we're kind of fluctuating all over the place, and we're not really present in where we are. And when we are not that way, we actually are very much disconnected from our guidance system that is allowing us or assisting us so that we make choices and experience life not only more fully, but also take steps that are more in alignment of the new you that's coming in. Because part of the new you that's coming in is really the higher aspect of yourself embodying the journey. So the whole process of being present, you actually are more connected. And I've showed it to you on very previous, where we're in the present moment, we are more connected to our higher self, which is first and foremost, higher self, which we also call soul. We're also accessing source essence and knowing through our human entity. We're also body consciousness. We're accessing that. However, there's another part to it. When you're present, not only are you have access to this, you get to see the playground, the reality that you're in clearly. You're not bouncing left, right, and center based on what you hear, what you have an emotional charge about, or anything of that nature. When you're in that state of presence, you're in a very powerful state. So, as I've shown before, we'll look at our timelines, being that we are here. So I'm going to put that we are here, which is the moment, the present time. And this is everything behind that. This is the past. And then the future. Now, depending on what's happening is, if we're looking at the past, especially if we hear stuff from any sources, including some of the family members or connections or friends or whatever it is, about what's going on. So we now shift our focus on what is happening based on other people's interpretation and also with whatever they're understanding at that point in time. But a lot of times what we do is we refer back to our experiences, stuff that may have happened to us at different times, but that doesn't even stop there, because say you're reflecting on this, if you're also going with whatever other people are sharing with you, it's going to be their past experiences. So you're basically a double layer of past if you're looking at what had happened. And you could say, well, you know what happened in 1982, what happened at this time, or what happened in 2008, and what happened to all of these things, and even 1918 and whatever else, all of these other scenarios that played out that were kind of impactful in a way. But if we're putting focus on that and looking at that, we may repeat all of that. Then we're looking at not only our own past or anybody else's past, but we're also looking at a collective past. And once we're looking at a collective past, we're basically, let me just put past on there. When we're looking at the collective past, it's a history of different states of experiences collectively. Now, we can't, we can look at all of that and say, well, that's a cycle that's repeating. Yes, there may be certain cycles that repeat, but each cycle is different than the next. We're in a very different world than we were whenever we're using as a reference point. So yourself, the people that you engage with, the collective, the planetary energies, the planetary alignments, all of that was very different of anything from this moment back. Okay? So we can look at, say, well, there was history. What history is good for is not to put focus on what happened in the history. If there's a lesson to learn from it or something of that nature, that's great, but really not to look at how it played out, because that doesn't really matter, because we're very different right now. So when we're looking at that, we're basically going into the present moment. And in the present moment, not only are you accessing these higher levels of consciousness of yourself, you're also using your mind in its effective way, because you remember the mind is a very powerful computer, and it has several sources, including, and I'll throw this one in, third eye. Oops. Third eye, which is basically now accessing information, understanding, consciousness from different realms and different understandings. So not only are you using the experience of your higher self and soul, the experience of the human entity, the experience of the body, but you're also the consciousness that it's gained through its experience. And then we also have this part, which is tapping into it. So now the mind has all these resources here to formulate and create certain experiences and understandings as a collective aspect, which is your collective aspect. It's you taking all of that. Because what happens when we're not present, we're either in the past or the future. Now the future is another thing, because right now, the future is really heavily pushed. And it's based on past, and it's based on perceptions. For example, what's going to happen after this point in time? Are we going to stay in a lockdown of some sort longer? Are we going to lose our access to whatever we used to have as part of our experience? Are we even going to be financially capable of functioning at this point in time? Is all of our systems going to fall apart? Are we going to be, controlled even more than ever? So a lot of those pictures are there, but there's projecting future potentialities from an older viewpoint. And this is why it's important for us to really connect with ourselves so that we're accessing the most current understanding and consciousness and energies within ourselves, so that when we are creating the reality, we create it from the highest resource that we have available, rather than some history or perception or idea or belief system of some sort or another. So this is right now, this is pushed like big time. And how many of us are putting so much attention to it that the future is full of fear? Fear that it's not going to go back the way it was, fear that we're not going to be able to survive, fear that we're never going to be able to live life the way we wanted to, or anything of that nature, or fear that somebody's going to have power over us and that we will have no say in the matter. And we're going to cover through this, because this episode 17 is going to have a few parts to it. So we're going to go and look at all those parts to assist you to access your own knowing. So we want to be in a position where we are in the present moment. We're fully present too. So it could be like, okay, I'm here now, right? But to be present also means that you're fully there. You're paying attention to everything within your reality, every part of you. So then you have multiple resources to combine and create a reality projection and design that is now encompassing all of that within the mind, and the mind is very powerful. Of course, the mind also has what we call the ego, which is still active for many of us, and many of us are shifting away from it or has tuned it down a bit. But that's only a small part of the operating system. So the importance of being present, being fully wherever you are, you also expedite your experience. Meaning that you don't have to stay too long in any particular experience. Because when you're in that state of being present, now you're not omitting anything that you're looking at. You're also, in a sense, looking at everything that is presented to you. How many times have we, are experiencing life and we are kind of in a hypnotic state? We're not even seeing what's going on because we're so busy in the mind. And we're not talking about this part of the mind, of course, but we're busy in the ego mind, which likes to play in the past and also in the future. So right now, the ego is being fed hugely. And I mean it, because right now, with everything that we're being shared, with potentialities and what can possibly happen or anything of this nature, or whatever the media and other well-meaning people are sharing, and even the stories of agendas and whatever else, your higher self, your human entity, your body consciousness, and even your third eye sees the dance, but doesn't react. It says, okay, this is what we have to play with. What do we want to create? How do we want to shape this? How do we want to design the journey forward? The ego's going, are you kidding me? We got to be careful. First of all, we can't go outside because we can get this horrible whatever, that's going on. Yes, the same thing. It's not safe for us to be there. Our jobs are going to be gone. Our life stream is going to be changing. Also, potentiality, we can't even enjoy being with others because we have to be so afraid. And it's going to say many, many, many things because it uses that. So right now, really, when you look at it, everything that you're being fed from the different medias at this point in time really works really well for the ego to have resources. Remember, I told you that the inverted matrix was turned off. We did that together. Was turned off. So I'll just put off. So it does not have backup to basically reinforce it. So what is it going to do? The ego goes into survival mode and basically looks at anything and everything as, oh, wait a minute here. Look at all these things that are playing out. We need to be afraid of this, we need to be afraid of that, and whatever else, and we got to look at life dismally. We got to look at it that we're not going to flourish anymore, that whatever we had is gone. Some of it may be true, but the thing is, the ego is saying, well, if it's gone, life is not going to be the same, and we're not safe. We're not going to be able to live life like we did. From these parts of yourself, you're basically higher self, human entity, and body consciousness is saying, yes, we're ready for change. But that change does not mean that we lose what is really, really important in our life, rather than what we've believed and what the ego has projected as an idea of what was important. Because a lot of times we take on ideas what is important, but is it really important? This is hugely different than what, so the two perception, the ego's perception of what's important is very different than what's important here, because all of this is choosing to play freely, to expand, to become more enlightened, and to access more of itself to create a new reality, an expanded reality, which is in alignment with not only the way we're shifting into it, the planetary shifting and all the sentient beings, but also our solar system, our galaxy, and our universe. It wants to align with all of that. And that's all coming from here. This is saying, no way. We're separate. We're on our own journey here. And whatever's happening doesn't matter to us, because what's important is that we protect ourselves. Now, the ego also will say there's an on and off, or meaning you live or you die. And the thing is, it's basically showing you, if we don't have what we had before, we may die, we may suffer, we may go through all of these consequences. Meanwhile, in the present moment, you go, okay, this is what I have to play with. I'm looking around. This is my current playground, my current reality, my current playmates, my current whatever I'm looking at. However, now I choose to design from what I have available as raw material, meaning all experiences and so forth, something that is aligned. And that's why it's important in that, because then you bring in alignment with all of this rather than just an ego perception. So that it makes a huge difference of doing it that way versus, doing it where, how can I say, like from all aspects that is working towards creating a new reality, new world, new playground, versus one that's reflecting to an old program design, which is basically, the separation, fight and flight, right and wrong, good and bad, and all of that. Now, a lot of people say, well, we have to live in the polarity world, that's how it's designed. No, it's not. It's how we have it right now, and we still use it as a powerful instrument, because a lot of times if we're not experiencing polarity, we're still so deep in the program that until it hurts, or there's some form of pleasure getting out of it, we don't take steps. But eventually that changes, because now more of us are just going with alignments, feeling that resonance, that sense of moving in the direction that best serves you. So that is what we're doing, and not the ego's aspect of it. So when we're looking at how life plays out, we're bringing more of ourselves into the playground and in our reality creation. So this is the thing we have to understand. If we're still playing only with that, because I mean, it's going to be a mix for a little while until this becomes obsolete too. Most likely it is obsolete, but we still give it a lot of power because we haven't done the transition. We haven't handed it off to one to the other. So it's like saying, okay, ego, we're really good with where we're at. I'm going to go with all of the rest of me. And I'm going to create from that reality. Because you know something? That world that you helped me experience, that polarity, separation, fight and flight, survival instead of flourishing and all of that other stuff, and where, life and death, meaning I'm be here now, not there. All of that was like a cool experience. I really enjoyed every aspect of it. But you know something? We're done with that. And I don't need you to create an illusionary protection, because that's what the ego likes to use, is that you're protected. I will take care of you. I will tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And I'll give you many, many options along the way that are based on what we have as a reference, as a way of life. So that is where it wants to keep you in that respect. But right now, you want to be in that state. So right at this moment, all of us, no matter where we're at, what we're doing, whatever role we're playing, let's be present. But also notice, if anything is fear-based, anything is up and down, positive, negative, if anything is in one way not feeling comfortable and you are reacting, you're feeling stress, you're feeling emotional charges or anything of nature, you are not, first of all, not in the moment, and you're not using all of your more powerful resources. You're living in this. So this is the key, is to pay attention to how you feel. Because if your energies is accentuated in a sense of a boiling point in a way, wherever you're doing, and there's fear involved or anything of that nature, you know where you're at. So that's why you do the process that we're going to play with right now, just focusing on the breath and bringing ourselves centered where we are in the most powerful state. Because, like as I said, in the moment, and of course every moment's new, the same thing we talked about in the past, in other episodes about timelines and everything else, we're on one timeline, which our personal timeline and the collective timeline are kind of really running in parallel, and we are only plugging in as you need things. You're on the fly. It's not like, oh, I got to shift from one thing to the next for me to create something new reality. And there's a chain of reactions that occur. The beauty is, you come one realization in this moment, every moment after that shifts. So even if you had a projected outcome of this nature down the road, each one of this understanding or adjustments that you go through changes all of that. But the thing is, it's not the focus. And this is why we're talking about the present. We're not focusing about the future. What happens is we don't even get to live life when we're worried about the past or the future. Or in this case, worried about the future and using the past as a reference point. We don't get to live life. We're either in the past or in the future. Well, the future can be anything that we believed at that point in time, and the past is whatever we experience at that point in time. Realizing that you're neither. You're not the future because you haven't gotten there and you haven't created it and you haven't shaped it, and you're not the past because you passed all of that. You moved out of that from before. So here you are. You're now moving along the way in a very powerful way by just being in the present, because in the present, then you're fully present in that highest state of who you are that moment. And the future, it's just a ride. We're going to create it along the way. We're going to plug in whatever we want. And the fact that, everybody's saying, well, we're going to go into this state or that state, and this is going to happen and that's going to happen. Yeah, if we're going to hold on to where we are at now, we can kind of create something like that, but we're not there. And especially with the energies coming through and everything that's going on and the agreements you made with yourself from a higher perspective that we're going to move forward in a big way. That's impossible for us to follow that path. So if you could look at it and say, well, you know, the history of mankind for the last even 100 years has looked from here to here, all of these scenarios and situations. Yes, but not only that, we're not even there. We're not there anymore. And this moved very slowly. Change was very minuscule along the way. Now I know it started to increase as of 87, then increased some more from 2012, and now it's like on exponential adrenaline rush because things are changing much faster and faster, as you could see. Even the situation we're in now, nobody even imagined it. Yes, there were some indications that things were going to change, but what did it take? What did it do? On a collective scale, from a human, what you call a higher self and human and body consciousness said, okay, we got to stop. We got to slow down. We got to give, and even Gaia was involved in that and saying, okay, let's slow things down. Let's give us the opportunity to see what we have as a possibility, to see that we don't have to stay in that hamster wheel or anything of that nature, that we are much more capable, that's the word I can use, much more capable of creating a different reality, very different. So what we've been doing, so that you understand, up to just recently, most of everything, so you're looking at every business, every organization, every structure, every idea of life has been always living in the past. All of us, collectively and individually. So now it's saying, we can't refer to that. We're done with this. We're going to now create something new. So when somebody says to me, when is things going to change? Well, it's us that's changing it. That means, how quickly are we going to start plugging in whatever it is? However, if you have the fear, if I don't change, something bad's going to happen and the future's going to look bad, and a lot of people put a lot of focus in that, in the sense of, oh, we got to change this, we got to take these people out, we got to do this, we got to do that. What are we doing? We're in here. We're not in creative state. We're still reprojecting that inverted matrix, even though it's off. We're still living very much in the ego, because only that's going to say that. And that's the thing. When you are in the most, what you call present moment, you're present wherever you are, you have much more resources to look at every step forward you're going to make, and you stay current. So it's so, I can't say it anymore clearly, that it's really, really important to be fully present where you are. Because not only you get to live life, you get to experience more of it. Because many of us are so sensorially deprived, looking for the next kick or the next highlight or whatever it is, next high, if you want to call it that, that we don't even live the moment. And many of us, you know, that I've worked with over the last 35 years, one of the biggest regrets that's been coming up is that I never really lived my life, because what happened is I was either bouncing from the past to the future. Oh, I got to plan for the future. I got to design my life. I got to do this and that. And I got to put in my time. I got to do all of that before I can live my life. And then you get to the point where their life is come to an end or close to it and saying, I didn't get to live my life. Or that their health changes so that they didn't even get a chance to actually enjoy the things they could have enjoyed when their physicality was in a different state. Now, again, living in fear, living in past and present, past and future, then, you know, it does deteriorate our operating system and how the body responds. So the body actually does really well when you're present, when you are in that moment, and each moment's brand new, because it feels unstuck. It feels like, okay, I can communicate with you and you're going to take action. So if we need to adjust certain things in our diet, adjust certain things that we're doing, adjusting whatever may be that we are exposed to, then it will work with you much more clearly, because you're paying attention. Is if somebody doesn't pay attention, you get to the point, say for example, you have somebody that you're communicating with and they're not paying attention to you, okay, and you're trying to relay something to them, you kind of give up and say, okay, figure it out whenever you ever come to terms or wake up or are interested in listening, and now share. But meanwhile, I'm going to keep nudging you in different ways where, if we have to stop you in one way or another, we will. So that happens with the body consciousness. If we're not present, we're not paying attention, we're not listening to it, it doesn't communicate with us that well. Even though if it's yelling at you and saying, hey, we got to change this is no longer in alignment. Same thing with the human entity. The human entity has a lot of gifts that it wants to share. It wants to experience a higher advanced state of human experience. And it has lots of experience around that. But if we're ignoring it and we're just all over the map, then you're not accessing, you're not having the same level of communication because it wants to share with you. And the same thing with your higher self. Your higher self says, look, we're coming in from other dimensions. We've had all these beautiful experiences on other planets and so forth, and even on this planet. But it's time for us to really play. So if we're not going to listen to it, and it says, okay, well, hit your head against the wall a few times and have certain repetitive experiences until you come to your senses and say, okay, I'm ready to listen. So this is the point. When you are present, you're much more receptive to get communication from your body, from your human entity, your soul. You get to see how your thoughts are. You actually even get to see what your subconscious mind is stored as ideas, concepts, belief systems. Conscious mind. Subconscious mind. So you're able to access much more of, oh, I've had these beliefs, I've had these stories, I've had these things, and then you could actually see them, see how they serve, and you can pop it out. And just, okay, we don't need this anymore. We're done. Clean it out. That's the most effective, is to be done in present. And in present, you're not blocking it out and saying, oh, this happened to me here, and I don't want to look at it. Remember, if you're getting triggered, and somebody's pushing your buttons, or you're pushing your own buttons, or something around you is pushing your buttons, then being present and say, okay, I'm going to sit with this, I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to store it away for tomorrow, or next week, next month, next year. And all of us have done that and still do it at some point. Saying, oh, I don't want to address it now because the timing is not right. Well, we've given ourselves a timing. But now, by being present, you have that opportunity to access more of that time. So you can really look at it so that you don't have to recreate it over and over and over again. Because this is the only reason we repeat certain things that we're not having such a great experience with, because in fact, we're just giving ourselves more and more of these opportunities, and a lot of times we're accentuated so that we are. So in present, you're like, oh, it's coming up, great, what's this from? Oh, this is from the past, or it's a projection from the future, or it's something from a collective, it's something from the lineage and whatever else. You are much more effective in dealing with that. Okay, anything else you want to say about the present, or did I cover enough of it? Okay, all right. So we're going to do just a really quick process. Now, if you're driving or you're doing something of operating machinery or chopping up something or whatever it is, you don't want to do this part of it. You can always do it afterwards with the recording or the replays or whatever you want to call it. So what we're going to do is, if it's conducive for you right now, you can close your eyes and just put your attention on the breath. Now, what I want you to do, and we're doing this together so that we support each other, by putting your focus on the breath, I would like you to be fully present with that breath. So as you breathe in and out, you're fully there to really experience the breath, to experience the whole body presence with the breath. So what I would like you to do to facilitate is take some really deep breaths without straining yourself too much. So a deep breath without creating too much strain, and then hold it just for a second or so, and then gently breathe it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to be fully present with the breath. Okay? So let's do that now. So as you're focusing on the breath, just be present. And you can close your eyes, that'll be great. If you can't close your eyes, don't. Pay attention to whatever. But you could also still focus on the breath. And by doing so, you bring yourself in the present moment. Now, while you're breathing, if you feel any uncomfortableness, any part of your body, okay, just allow it to be released. So that means you pay attention to it and breathe it out. Breathe out the focus. So you focus on, say you're uncomfortable with your back, just put your attention there. As you breathe out the tension that's in your back or any part of your body. Should any thoughts come in, just observe it and breathe it out. Because right now we're not going in thoughts. We're basically wanting to be fully present. And by being fully present in the breath, you bring yourself to this moment. Because we're going to walk through certain parts of it while you're in this moment. So as you continue to breathe, just feel yourself getting more and more relaxed and comfortable with this moment. This moment is all that exists. The past is gone, the future hasn't been created yet. So we're just going to focus on the breath. And should something that comes up that may create some emotional charge, acknowledge it. Acknowledge it, thank it, send it love, and just put it out in the field. Meaning just put it out outside in the energy field around you. Because all of us are in the field. All creation exists in the field. Nothing is outside the field. And the field is also source. The field is all essence of all creation, of all existence, of all potentiality. And we're going beyond the fact of everything has been created, because it's not. Once upon a time. Now we're new creation. So all that was created before were potentialities and simulations. And as you get more relaxed and being present, just notice if anything comes up for you. And if it does, like I said, just acknowledge it, thank it, and send it love. Because in the present moment, we're in peace. In the present moment, we feel every aspect of ourselves. In the present moment, we have no fear. There's no concerns. There's no what if. It's just now. Now on your current playground. Now in this opportunity to really experience the playground. And as you go quieter, just feel your body right now. Let's ask for your body's innate consciousness to share something with you. Body, I'm present right now. I'm open to listen. I'm open to feel what you have to offer, what you would like for me to adjust moving forward. I am paying attention right now. I'm open for what you have to offer. You may feel some sensations, you may feel some other nudging of some sort, or even thought forms may come up of certain things that it wants to share with you, that it's ready to participate with you in adjusting. You can feel the love and the support that comes from your body. Because that love and support is not only your body, it's all of Gaia and all sentient beings. It's the whole solar system and galaxy and universe. That's how profound it is. And you can shift now the attention to your gut, your solar plexus. And basically, just pay attention to the feel it provides. And it could be even a thought form, a knowing. And that's connecting with your human entity. Human entity, I am present right now. Please share with me what you would like to share, or you've been trying to get my attention so that you could share. I'm open to really get an opportunity to get a feel for what you have to say. I'm open right now. At times you may feel a sensation in your gut. If a thought form comes up, just be with it and just see how it feels. At times you may get an indication to let go of something, and that's okay. It's like, okay, my old story, I can let it go. My old patterns, I can let it go. Just be present. Just feel the support it provides you. It wants to be part of your journey. It doesn't want to sit in the back seat or in the trunk. It wants to be part of the ride. It wants to be a contributor. And it also wants to work with the other parts of you, which is your higher self soul. It wants to work with your body consciousness. Because that fragmentation is no longer required. So let's shift our attention to our heart. And just be present with the heart. The heart is your higher self soul. It's the transmitter receiver that communicates with your higher self. That's why a lot of people talk about connecting with the heart. It's basically connecting with your higher self. Now, the higher self is always connected, but it's actually giving the opportunity to listen, the opportunity to feel what it has to share. The higher self in any other part does not have fear, does not work in polarity. Sometimes it uses it to get our attention if we're totally ignoring it. But in general, it's very peaceful knowing. Higher self, I am present with you. Share what you have to share. I'm open to listen and to get whatever you want to share with me as cues or direction or anything of that nature. I'm not coming in needy. I'm just coming in as present, listening and open. That's all. Because all of this is working together. It's not separate. Let's be present completely. So that means that right now, we're not going to put any attention moving forward from this point. Whatever happened in the past was a beautiful dance. Whatever we decided to do and not do was beautiful and perfect. You don't create anything that's not perfect or serving. Even the stuff that, from an ego perspective and a collective perspective, may have been challenging, polarized, intense, dramatic, traumatic, or anything of that nature. They were just beautiful dances. It does not matter who played what role or didn't play the role that they needed to play, which you believe they needed to play, from a collective perspective, from a handed down perspective. And as for the future, we're completely wide open. We're going to create it moment by moment. There's no projections of days ahead, weeks ahead, months ahead, or anything of that nature. If we feel guided to take certain steps, we just take those steps. And the steps will support us along the way, because we're going to be fully present. So the commitment you make to yourself right now is, I choose to live my life in the present moment, every moment. I choose to be open to receive all the channels of communication that comes from my body consciousness, my human entity and soul. I choose to be present and seeing what I have around me as material, as opportunities, as energetics and otherwise. That means I look at my current reality and really observe it and decide each step of the way how to reshape it, what to add, what to subtract, how to mold it. I'm also committing to myself to no longer need to repeat the past or older creations, or holding on to older labels, definitions, stories, ideas, concepts. Doesn't matter if it's personal, lineage, collective, or anything of that nature. I choose to live in this moment. And in the moment, I am brand new each moment. In the moment, I fully create moment by moment. So let's be more attentive to the breath, and let's use the breath right now as an opportunity to bring yourself back to this reality that we're here to play, so we can continue to play. But as we're doing that, feel the calmness that you experience within yourself when you're in the moment. It's calm. It doesn't have fear. It doesn't even look at polarization. It just feels exciting. And if it doesn't, just repeat the process daily. And it'll get more and more comfortable, more and more exciting, more and more of your capacities and capabilities will unfold. And you're current all the time. The highest version of you is available each moment. So as we put the focus on the breath, let's use the next 3 breaths in and out to bring us back into the reality of this present moment, us playing together. Okay, welcome back. you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, someone just wanted to ask, so is it good to think about the future as long as we're joyfully planning experiences we want to have?
Well, the future, the way to look at the future is potential experiences that you may feel right now to kind of see unfold. So you can focus that direction, but the thing is you have to be completely fluid and open, because what happens is if you're here in this moment and you're projecting down the road, you're basically using what you have access to now as consciousness, awareness, and as the energetic field of that time to create a potential future. But the thing is, this next moment or the next moment, you're always upgrading. Your reality around you is upgrading. Others are upgrading. The energies are upgrading. So all of those are projecting. So you can say, my intention, based on this particular moment, I see the future looking this way. And you can set that up in a way where you're saying, okay, that is what I feel right now. So you start taking the steps. But you're paying attention step by step if you feel something needs to shift. Now, I'm not talking about the ego's idea, going, oh, this is a waste of time, whatever it is, or you feel lazy or anything of that nature. No, it's more, if you have a certain resonance, you resonate to create that reality. Say you want to create a group or whatever it is at that point in time, or a certain way of experiencing life, and you, at that point, are paying attention as you're taking the steps, how in resonance it is. So if it has to shift a little bit, you allow it to shift. If it needs to shift a bigger way, you do. And if it needs to be dropped at some point, that's okay too. You're in fluid. You're fluid with it. So the thing is, that way, when you're fluid, you're living each moment brand new. Each moment you're plugging in the highest aspect of yourself, and you're also knowing what if it's still in alignment with you or not, because we're all changing. We're all changing. You know, we can look at it and say, well, I want to get back to my job and I want to do it this way. Well, you know, we're changing. So chances are, you know, we may go back, but we'll also realize that you're going to pay attention more. Does this align with me? Is it still supporting me? Is this something I want to continue to move forward with or not? So you have to be very fluid with that regards. Okay, is that anything else? All right. So, all right. Took a little longer to play with in the moment, and so that was a long moment, wasn't it? Okay. All right. So the next thing we want to talk about is how giving power to the collective ideas plays a role personally and collectively, and how it shifts. So the thing is, if we buy into an idea, and we could do no problem. It's very cool for us to take on a collective idea that things need to be a certain way. Okay? But we have to also realize the moment we buy into an idea, that becomes part of the substance of your design. So if you believe from a collective perspective that something nasty is going to happen and that we're not going to be able to live life the same way, or that we believe that we have to follow whatever, any time that we do that, we're basically bringing that idea, concepts, and belief systems of whatever that was collectively put together, and then you're bringing it into your reality, and you start shaping your reality and the collective projected reality with that substance. So if somebody says to you, things are going to go bad as an idea because of what is playing out or what has played out, okay, or that there's this virus or whatever it is, what we're doing is we're tapping into the eye. So right now there's these ideas, there's quite a few ideas. And it doesn't matter if it's how it came about, who did it, who didn't do it, how it was managed or anything of that nature. But there's a huge collective energy, consciousness, and focus around this and possibly what it will come out to be. So if we're putting attention to what the collective is presenting, then that becomes part of your construct of your present experience and future experience. We're going to build on that. So what happens is you now give away your own navigation system. You give away your own knowing. That means it doesn't matter if your higher self is saying one thing and your human entity is saying something too, and your body consciousness is, no. I got to go with the collective. This is the collective idea, a collective perspective. I'm going to put my focus on there. So what you're doing is you're now shaping your reality. You're shaping your creation around the idea. Plus, if we give power to the idea, we're not open to look at anything else. Look at for the people that are so focused on the fear of what's going on right now that they can't see any future, or they can't even see or experience themselves in the moment, because they're giving so much power. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? When can I go back out? When can I do this? When can I do that? So that becomes the navigator. It becomes the substance that we use in our design of our creation of our reality. That becomes the building material around what that's going to look like. So, plus, it limits all the resources. So here you are. I'm not an artist here, so it's very limited. I make the same size eyeballs. Okay, so here you are, and you have what the collective believes, but you also have other aspects of yourself as opportunities of seeing input, information. So information from all of this, information from other levels of understanding starts to become streamed or reduced, because this takes a priority role, or what the collective. So we have to include this is the collective perspective, the collective idea. Now we have to understand the collective idea, a lot of it is made up and is very past oriented. It's not current. Okay? Even a lot of our different systems, medical, you name it, education and so forth, is all based on past. And a lot of it is made up, because there were older understandings. Some of the stuff goes back over 100 years ago or even longer, but hasn't been updated. So the point is, if we're putting a focus on the collective and what the collective has to offer, really then we're limiting potentialities. We're limiting ourselves, and so we're really discounting all the inputs that we have. You did not come here to connect with the collective. You came here to sample it, how it feels and how you can experience it and what you may limit yourself to. But it's not for you in any way, shape, or form to say, my life has to be shaped around the collective idea. And then the collective idea is because there's so many different levels of collective. Because we have sub-collective, okay? There's religious collective. There's what you call governmental, or what we call political collective. We have different types of collective by culture, race, creed, what's the other one? Genders, and so forth. And each one has subs. So say this is the gender one. It's not standalone. It's connected to a lot of things. So what it represents to be a man or a woman in each of the different cultures and each of the different aspects of projection is going to be different, as you can see around you when you're looking at certain things around the world and what you get access to. The very different belief systems plug in. So for us to create new, you don't look at the collective. You focus on creating something completely brand new. And then start implementing it in your reality, and that extends in the collective bit by bit by bit, and it starts to change. And now, because of such a push, it flourishes even in a huge state. So not only does it affect you personally, by giving. So for example, if you go into the collective idea and say, okay, this is the collective idea right now, the collective belief systems, this is that. What you're doing is you're putting your focus on this, and you're now contributing to keep it intact and to reinforce it. Not only is it affecting you personally because now you become entangled, it's not separate. It becomes entangled, so it affects you personally. Personally. So it affects you personally, so it becomes part of your experience along the way, and it's also reinforcing. So a lot of people are saying, well, okay, we want to change our current situation. First of all, you can't be, how can I say it? Can't be polarized about it, but look at it and say, we want to change it, but then we're putting the fear of what the collective believes is going to happen. And the collective, because when we're putting a focus on one narrative, one story, one whatever, we're not even seeing the rest of it. So if we're putting the attention in that, how are you going to create a change? How are we collectively going to make a change? There's so many of us around the planet right now that are seeing a bigger picture of whatever's playing out right now. It's not seeing it as, oh, there's this horrible whatever that's going to destroy our lives and never make things better. It looks at it and says, oh, great opportunity. We have something to play with. We have something that we can experience that we weren't able to experience now without that particular. You have to understand, whatever's playing out right now and tomorrow, next day, and whatever is played out, please keep this in mind. Nothing was created, am I allowed to use those words? Nothing was created that was in one way or another serving us. And it was for the highest good of all aspects of ourselves, being all the playmates and so forth. So it doesn't matter what narrative we want to put our attention on. It's there for now to really be utilized as an opportunity. It's a vehicle. It's really an instrumental tool that we use to create a shift. We want the shift, but then the ego says, oh, we got to be afraid of the shift. We got to be afraid of change. We got to be afraid of what we don't know about, the future. We got to be afraid of it. So the moment we start putting our collective, this is why you want to be connected with yourself, you want to use your own navigation, you want to be in the most grounded state, then the collective is the collective. You're going to look at it and say, okay, this is the playground. And this is where the focus is. However, I choose now to tap into this to allow me to have a deeper understanding of the dance and how I can shift the dance, starting with myself and then it being reflected on a collective scale. Because really, for us to experience change, each one of us are instrumental to bring the changes about. Okay? So each one of us, by shifting ourselves and shifting the way we choose to play the game, because we're collectively connected, meaning that each and every one of us is connected to each other as a pool of energy, we're creating a shift in that respect. So anything that you come to a realization is like what they call the 100 monkey, whatever it was called. I can't remember what the word. Well, anyways, with that really effect? Okay, so I think it's the effect. So in essence, what happens is one or two monkeys decide or learn how to do something, then all of a sudden around the world, other monkeys just without seeing it was able to pick up on that. And this is the same way that works for us, actually even a much more powerful way. So the moment that we come to a realization that things are a certain way, we start to experience that, it causes a powerful ripple effect. So giving power to whatever the stories that are going on right now and saying, oh, this is what is, really limits us not only to change our reality, but to change the whole landscape of our playground. It really limits it hugely. So right now, how much possibilities would you have at your disposal if you're looking at what's going on and even depending on somebody to be the savior, saying, oh, we got to put the right person in place to change things? Well, you start living the change, you start experiencing the change, you start sharing the change without convincing or trying to, motivate others to do it. You will also feel that change. The same way I'm sharing with you. I'm sharing a higher open consciousness, which you already know from within, just reminding you, stimulating, allowing you to open your eyes so that this narrative of the collective is not your own focal point. You're now tapping into other aspects of yourself. You're tapping into more resources. So the more we buy into the current, then we limit the potentialities. We limit our change in a way. So what we're doing is we're providing us the opportunity to shake us up to such a degree that we don't have to, in any way, follow all of this. Now, automatic default, because you have to understand, the ego is really good in looking at the collective and saying, we have to look at the collective because whatever the collective does is going to affect us. And we have no other option but to live with what the collective idea is. Because it likes to limit that part of it. So it's going to put a lot of focus on it. So just to see it as for ourselves, so look at it this way. There's many, many agendas right now. I guess I'll make some room somewhere. I'll just take this part out. So really, it's for us to look at it and say, okay, currently, this is what's playing in the landscape. This is what's happening on the playground. How do I see it shaped from where we are now? Doesn't matter what anybody's saying or what anything is projected. If it does not resonate, don't go for it. If it creates fear, if it creates polarization, if it creates unsettledness, being unsettled or unsettledness, if that's a word, I'll make it up. If it's not, then you know who's at play. It's that operating system in the ego mind. Okay, so it's tapping into it and saying, "Oh my God, we're not safe. At the end of the world, blah blah blah." Because there are people that are focusing, and there's a lot in the collective of the end of the world, or the fact that we're going to live in a one world government, or that we're going to have all these other institutions and control structures that will limit our experience. That potential is there, but really, are we in that state to make it happen? Highly unlikely, because every scenario, even where we're standing right now, will not play out in a huge role, because we are saying we'll get a taste of it, like for example the 5G, whatever else that's coming out, we'll get a taste of it just to kind of bring our attention to it. But we're not going to go down that path and say, oh, I need to give a lot of power to this. So whatever is playing out at this point is for really us to look and say, okay, this is the landscape, this is what I'm playing with, how do we create it, how do we design it, how do we move forward? Now, there are many, 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 many different stories, agendas that are playing out. What does that mean? Well, the agendas are, we're going to go into the fact that we will have no freedom moving forward, that we have to be super cautious, that we have, say, elites or whatever, controlling the world, corporations, whatever. We have Armageddon, we have potential wars, we have potential vaccination restrictions and whatever else. We're going to talk about a lot of that stuff as we go along. Not today, of course. Forced vaccines and whatever else, right? All of that. So we're looking at it and say, okay, there's many, many agendas right now. Agendas, a lot of them are very, very polarized. A lot of them are very fearful based. Okay? So what is that doing? We're tapping into a collective. The agendas are doing what? They're only stimulating this, what we call the ego, saying, okay, that's reinforced this idea of disempowerment, this idea that in some way that. And we're going to look at every single detail as we go along the series. So there's going to be some more parts to this where we're going to look at different parts of how it actually works so that we are no longer seeing whatever's being dished out is where we end up with. And you could say, well, if the majority of the collective is still there, remember, each one of you that sees beyond it already negates 20,000 source points. That's only currently, that's expanding anyways. 20,000 source points of the opposite. You're negating all of that by just one person, by one expanded aspect of reality. Shifting that happens within you. That's how powerful you are. So a lot of the possibilities that'll unfold, who's this, who's that, bankruptcy, or what we can call financial collapse, or anything of that nature. If any of those things play out, they're only going to play out to kind of create openings for us to shift, but it's not going to go full out. So, for example, we're going to be limited to our travels unless we go through certain protocols and whatever else. And we're going to go into more in depth with that as we go along. That's from an idea that we are not in charge of our creation. If you watch the last episode, or part 1 of the episode 17, I did talk about the small percentage that is dictating information down, like we drew the pyramid, and that really it's up to us to agree along the way if we're going to take on a particular role. So, for example, let me give you a simple example. Your parents or someone, your boss or whoever at this point in time that you have now deemed as an authoritative figure. Could be governmental, could be leaders or whatever it is, could be family, could be whatever. So as long as you give them the authority over you, whatever they say, you end up using as part of your reality and creation. But if you come to the realization that they're only sharing opportunities for me to see something from their perspective, to give me the opportunity to look at that perspective and decide if I want to gain or take on that perspective. And if I do, I have the freedom to change it at any point in time or use it in minuscule ways. See, the thing is, it's really us that decides at one point or another, do I take it on or not? So the narratives of all of this saying, okay, the agenda is this, 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 and this, whatever that may be, and we'll get into a little bit more details along the way. It's really up to us to decide if we go with what is presented or not. And we're going to look at what we call authority, and also the rulings and whatever else that comes on, enforcement and all of that. We're going to dissect every piece of it and really get to a level of clarity where you are in that empowered state so that you're not outside of your creation as we've played for a long period of time in our life. It's like looking at our life and saying, I have no say in the matter. Even in the sense there's people that give power to some deity outside of that, or some ruling class of some sort, being hierarchies and whatever else. And we're going to look at all of that along the way in these following parts that we're moving through. So when we're looking at all of that, really it's up to us to say, what part of the agenda? So right now there's a lot of fear that thing is going to go a certain way. But that's the beauty of it, because collectively it's projecting that, but it's also giving us the opportunity to come to it. Now, do I want to participate? Does it resonate with me? I'm not talking about, am I going to like it or not like it? Because liking or not liking is still ego, because it's still trying to figure it out, projecting one or the other. It's not about liking or not liking. It's more of, does this resonate for me? Is this part of the reality I'd like to create and experience? And if I do, that's okay. I can do that temporarily or whatever it is. But is it really what I want to participate in creating? You get to that point, you understand it much more clearly what you're choosing to experience. So it doesn't matter what is being presented to you. You say, how do I want to use this as an opportunity to really take a huge leap, not only in my life and the people in my life, but as a collective, or what we call planetary playground. So you get to step into all of this. Because the question that comes in a lot is, what say do I have in all of this? Huge say in all of this. So you're saying, well, Max, the 5G thing, or what was it called again? Forced vaccination? What is it? Yeah. Mandatory. That's the word. That's the word of the thing. All of that. What say do I have in that? We'll look at it more closely along the way, but what say do I have in the matter? Hugely. You have say. Not only do you have say, not in the fighting say, but in a say of saying, okay, this is how we play the game at this point. It is not something I'm going to plug into my reality. And when you now are not plugging it into your reality, not because you're afraid of it, because it's not part of the experience you want to have, then it doesn't. You don't use that as a reference point. So you have a very impact. But that also has a powerful ripple effect. So right now, if you look at it, just pay attention for a moment. Years ago, whatever the media, whatever anybody that we put in authoritative states really had a very powerful way to dictate and shape our life. So if they made a story, whoever the theys are, and when I say they, we're talking about the different people that we put into place or groups or anything, they would tell us a story saying, let's go back to this virus. This virus is dangerous. It's going to kill thousands, not 1,000, tens and hundreds of thousands, 500,000, maybe 2 million or whatever, 10 million, 100 million, or whatever it is. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Now, you have to say, a lot of people are still buying into that. Or what it looks like, or anything of that nature. And the people that were receiving the information, including ourselves, would basically go with whatever was being shared. But look at it right now. You hear one thing about, oh, this is what it is, and these are all the potentials. But look at how much alternative, opposite, looking, investigation, going into a deeper, a deeper accessing of what really is happening. Look at the people that were in positions before which would have just projected that narrative and wouldn't question it. They're coming to the surface now, more and more. There are experts and doctors and even scientists are saying, look at it. This is not really, what you're hearing is not really what's happening. In fact, even the testing and so forth is not in alignment because it doesn't really take all of these things that are necessary to really get a good feed of what's going on to be quantified or qualified as something that we put power into it and say, oh yeah, that's correct. Look at how many people right now are questioning many, many things that are going on. And how many are looking at their life and saying, we've gone down this road. How does it feel? What do I want to create now? How do I want to shift? And you start looking at certain things. Even false flags, as they used to call it, or probably still call it now. The moment it comes out, it is dissected and opened up and looked at, and in fact, you're looking at the details. And look at the false flags, even that. I'm just using that as an example. They're not even crafted in a way where you can't have doubt. It's so sloppily, or so haphazardly done or what's that? Half-assed done, so that you could actually see the incorrectness. And it's saying, listen, I'm going to throw this out to you, and I'm going to make it as ridiculous as possible with so many openings so that you could actually see through it. Now, many will not, but there are many, many, many more that are seeing it that weren't seen before. Look at all this disclosure stuff that's coming up. What's being disclosed? What was happening where we didn't even pay attention to? What was going on in the sense of how things were being dictated? What stories were provided as factual? What was behind the scenes that, created the idea that there is the lack, or that there is, superiority, or that we're not in power? That is now being shattered in our life. We're seeing more and more of what we couldn't see before. And now we jump quickly into anything. Oh, I'm not going to go with whatever I just heard. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to investigate. How many more people now are investigating all sides of things? Somebody tells you this, you're going to go research it. For example, a doctor could turn around and say, you have this ailment, and there's nothing we can do. Or these are the only options you have. More and more people, I'm not saying everybody, more and more people are saying, thank you, I'm going to look into it. And what are they doing? They're doing more research. They're looking at alternatives. They're looking at other possibilities. They're looking outside of the box of what was dictated as a way of life. Now they're looking at it, and the gods that they made out of doctors, the gods that they made as their teachers, the gods that they made out of anybody that has been in so-called illusionary ruling position, is no longer as effect anymore. You're now looking at, okay, that's their perception, what they've been taught, what's been handed down. I'm going to look into it. And this is why more and more people are investing time to learn, to get more information that resonates with them, rather than just taking whatever's being presented. So that is part of the changes that are occurring right now. We question everything. And we have to understand that even if we only get a little piece of it now, we're also looking at a bigger piece. Now, of course, sometimes what happens is if our ego is still very active, which it is for most people, then we can get very easily polarized, meaning that there's disclosure showing, oh, this is what's happening, and then you can now go into an emotional charge of saying, oh, those bad people, they're this, they're evil, they're whatever, we got to take them down, or whatever it is, right? So that's still the ego going into react mode of feeling victimizer and saying, oh, okay, look at what they've been doing to us. Well, they've been playing a role. We've agreed in an unconscious state to play there, but now we're given the opportunity to change it. And this is what we're doing. We're giving ourselves a very powerful opportunity to change it. So this is the difference now. We're not accepting just the status quo or whatever is being presented. The same thing with education, the medical system, a lot of the different layers of different things that are being shared, even stuff that's been handed down. We're questioning more and more of it. And because there are a lot of people that have already for years have been doing further researches and not taking whatever is being just passed down, because we're saying something doesn't resonate, something needs to be looked at a little closer so that we can actually go in an empowered state and go down that path, rather than going down, this is the only blind path that there is. So that's changed. You can see that right now. And the thing is, more of that's going to come through, but you're not going to go into polarized and saying evil, this and that. You're going to see the ones that are playing various roles as, and we're going to do a meditation, a guided one, 1 week from today. What's that?
We'll see.
Yes.
Check the date.
We're going to check the date, and we're going to work it out. So our plan, our intent, okay, it's just the future, right? Our intent is to do where we're stepping into a state of seeing things in a loving, appreciative state, and having the capacity for us to shift it. Okay, so we're no longer looking at, oh, we gotta do meditation, or we have to do something to change things. It's just to open more access within ourselves so that we are actually doing the empowered changes, not only in our lives, in our collective playmates around us, and in the world. Not that we have to see the world as something bad. It's a perfect playground as it is. We're just upgrading right now, and that's what we're doing. So the upgrades at this point in time is really changing. And look at where we are now. We're in a very powerful position to be able to take the time to look at ourselves and really say, okay, let me see what's going on and how can I shape it. Okay? So I will not carry on any further on this. The video is already long enough for the live stream. So, of course, I have the best of intentions. So if you look at the description, some of those things are going to disappear because we're going to cover it in the next one, which will be this coming Tuesday, and then we'll have some more on Thursday. So we're going to be doing part 3 and possibly part 4 or 5, as we go along. And we'll let you know, we'll keep you posted of a very powerful activation meditation that we will be doing. And we will ask you guys to share it with many, because the more that come together, the more powerful. But we're going into meditation activation to be in an empowered state and to start upgrading the playground and everybody else's state of consciousness. So we're focusing away from whatever narrative it is and creating a collective viewpoint of how we choose to experience life. Because right now we have the potential to create something so powerful, so profound, it boggles our mind, because our mind has been always in the old aspects of it. Now, some of us have already had tastes of that, because we've already been connecting into that oneness, have been seeing things in a much more expanded way than we have in the past. So really what we're looking at is we've created such a powerful opportunity right now, and it's really for us to use it. That's all. So anyways, until next Tuesday at 4 p.m., enjoy everything that's been shared. And we're going to look at, just to give you a little taste of it, we're going to look at what 5G is, how it affects us, what it will affect, how the body deals with it, the different bandwidths so that we understand. We're going to look at the effect of fear, the energy involved, how we can feed it, and how we can let it go. We're also going to importance on the focusing of our thoughts and so forth, and how it playing out right now, and there will be a process for that too. So that'll be coming up.
If you can get to all that, honey,
If I can get to all of that.
I'm just for an hour.
We're just projecting what our intent is.
We'll go to it the next week.
Yes.
The next day, Thursday.
Whatever doesn't get covered, we just keep pushing it along, because we'll just add it in. So depending on how fast we cover everything, that's how many parts there's going to be. So we really don't know, because we don't plan it out, because I never know how much time we're going to spend on any area. But is there anything else you wanted to share?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for participating, and we look forward for the next one. Please look at the description and anything that Kimberly's posted in the comments regarding if you want to access the last workshop that we did 2 weeks ago. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't put that in the chat, but it is in the description.
It's in the description, yes. So that will be available for us to look at. And you, if you want to join the community, just go to the website and just join the community. That way you'll get notifications. And there's also stuff on the website you can access. Share this with everybody. If you like it, like it. If you want to add some comments later on, you could do so, depending on whatever platform that you're on. And once again, we thank you for any contributions that you provide to support us to keep going. We'd like to put out more and more content, and if you support us, we can go even further. So thank you again.